Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Hi everyone, welcome back to Casual Watch Talk. You're joined by Sam from the Casual Watch Review channel and Chris from Everyday Mastery on Instagram. How have you been, Chris?
Good. Good evening, Sam.
Oh, good evening to you too. Good evening. So this week we've got a couple of news stories as per usual, and then we've got an interesting discussion about watch flipping that's sort of also going to be about limited edition watches and what we think of those. So should be an interesting topic. We kind of briefly discussed it last week, I think, as we were discussing other things. But so first up, as customary with these shows, what watch are you wearing, Chris, at the moment?
I am still my everyday, the Bell & Ross V293 GMT. So still on the wrist. Haven't taken off since I got it back from service. So,
and then have you got a watch obsession this week? This is going to be a dangerous, this has already been dangerous for me talking about watch obsessions, but have you had a watch obsession this week?
Not a couple of stories that we'll kind of talk about. A little obsession. We'll talk about President's Day a little later. That's my watch obsession, but nothing too crazy.
Oh, you lucky I didn't actually get a President's Day. I had to travel for work on that day to a customer who didn't celebrate President's Day.
Yeah. No, I was working as well, so I didn't get it off, but it was awfully slow, which was good. So there was definitely some time to browse the feed.
Oh, absolutely. What have I been wearing this week? Well, I've been wearing. Yeah. Well, I was traveling with the Ultimate Turtle.
Yeah, saw some pictures of that. Yep.
Got it on a nice man cave leather strap.
Looks good.
Yeah, big shout out to Macola for sending me that. And then the last 2 days I've been wearing, so the guy that designed the Bullhead chronograph watch that I reviewed on the channel, which is still on Kickstarter, so check that out if you look for the Mech Bullhead. I'll leave a link in the show notes. So Dave, who's designed that, who actually does design them in Detroit. He's from Detroit, unlike those other charlatans. And
a Detroit watch company that will not be named.
Yes, a nondescript Detroit watch company. And he also he very kindly sent me in, and I think I'll do a review of it as well. Have you ever seen his homage to the 6105 that he made? The Seiko 6105.
No, I didn't.
He's done a homage with it. It's got his logo on it, but it's very kind of faithful to that original Seiko. So he sent me those in to have a look at. So I might do a review of that. It's interesting if you like that vintage Seiko look, that 6105, which was the predecessor to the Turtle. If anybody's not registering from the number.
Oh, right. Yeah. So now I get it. I'll need to check that out. Yeah.
And then my watch obsession this week has been weird. It's been G-Shocks. So last week I talked about that, how I was down with the kids and I was checking out that Kith watch, which I also thought might have been KITH, but I've since learnt by watching 16-year-old boys reviewing hoodies on YouTube that it is Kith. Anyway, this will lead into our bigger story actually, but the rose gold watch sold out in seconds. It's a rose gold coloured G-Shock DW6900. It does look awesome. It's a bit gaudy in rose gold. Anyway, so I've been watching those on eBay, and then that G-Shock have now released metal versions of that watch. So one is called the GM6900G, which is a gold, and then they've also done a silver one, or a steel version, and then they've done one that's like a black, which is steel, but then they've coated it to look black. The gold one, not a watch that I would normally go for, but it does look pretty cool. It's they're going on eBay for about $250. I just don't know if it's going to be if it's too much bling for me.
Gold on a black rubber strap, the traditional G-Shock strap.
Yep.
It's got the gold face too, so
The one thing that is putting me off, and we discussed this last week, is the negative dial.
Right. Yeah, inverted dial, yeah.
Yeah, the inverted dial. And somebody commented on, we should do this as another subject, but somebody commented on that video, so big shout out to that person that commented, that he runs triathlons and wears polarized sunglasses, and some LCD watches that you can't view with polarized sunglasses on. I don't know why I've never known this before.
Yeah, I'm a polarized sunglass guy, and yeah, I could see that. And there's times where you're like have to look at your phone sideways, and you're like, oh, okay, oh, I can't see this. This is totally not. And also some of the LCD display is like in cars and stuff are like that.
Yeah, well, I can confirm to all the listeners that you definitely are polarizing.
Okay, good. That's good. At least that's good.
I only ever remembered polarizing sunglasses, I think, from my dad when he used to go fishing.
It cuts down the glare and it adds contrast, I guess, is what I'd say. So it makes everything kind of sharp. Also, like driving and like skiing, I think can help. Although just a yellow lens, like a different color lens, will help with skiing. So
I have worn them in the past when I went fishing with my dad, but I don't recall not being able to see an LCD watch with it. So maybe we should need to do an experiment on the channel with that.
It's like one of those things where you just assume everyone has done, and then you're like, oh yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, weird. Thanks, Chris, for letting us know what you're wearing. That's what I was wearing, the Ultimate Turtle. Now let's dive into a couple of news stories. And I have to be honest, it's been a bit of a light week in the world of horology. There's been no significant dramas, certainly not that I've noticed. Yeah.
Other than some other folks have picked up the couple stories that we scooped up early. Watch shows and the COVID-19 stuff, and some other drama. But been pretty light. We should recap.
We should definitely recap. So speaking of the podcast we did 3 weeks ago now, and I'm going to say we were the first. We might not have been, but we were talking about the controversy with Horology House, which was a quick recap. It was a YouTube channel doing very well, based in Australia, outed on Reddit for selling fake Rolex watches, and it was quite a damning case. Adrian at Bark and Jack did a great breakdown of what the potential con might have been, which we guessed.
Yeah.
And then what happened was his Reddit channel went down, didn't it?
He popped off Facebook, and then I think he closed his Reddit user. Well, and then his whole YouTube channel was off. So it was very damning in the way that it was like, if someone is accused of something and then they just close everything and go away instead of actually coming out and saying anything in response, like, no, that's not true.
Funny, wasn't it? And some of the WhatsApp messages that were put on Reddit were, he wasn't exactly denying it, was he? Was kind of acknowledging that it was an accident, or that he'd been conned and so on.
And then just being like, hey, don't tell anyone, just get me this back and I'll give you your money back, kind of thing. Like, just, hey, could you just keep the con going? That'd be great.
Yeah, it was funny. And then, so this week, which you alerted me to, is that the channel, which he'd taken down his YouTube channel. Now, his YouTube channel was growing. He was getting a ton of views. And I said it on that video, and I'll say it again. His videos were phenomenal. Some of his close-up photography was second only, I would say, to Watchfinder. Yeah, incredible photography. But it's come back. But you noticed something very important about the channel that came back.
Yeah, well, I popped back up, and I was randomly, I was watching YouTube like you do, and it just randomly suggested a watch video, also because it knows me. And it knows what I'm thinking. And it was one of the Horology House videos. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought this channel was gone. And then I was like, he put it back up. Two things I noticed. The first one was the how to spot a fake Rolex is conspicuously gone. So there's a copy of that video someplace else. Multiple people have posted it. And then the second part was some of those videos have, upwards of 300, 400,000 views. And I know, Sam, you're probably more of a YouTube expert in this than I am, but I mean, I know that if you have a video that has 1 million views, you're doing okay. You're that is making something for you.
Yeah, it is. It's depending on what his CPM rate is, that could have earned $1,000. It could have earned $2,000. It's a consistent one that's continued to be watched. So if you take that across, and I've never had a video that got to 1 million views, but off my CPM, it's roughly about, he'd be on between $1 and $2. Of course, that's Canadian money, so that was probably like $100,000 that he made. But
or Australian, right?
Australian. It's Australian dollars. Yeah.
Does it spend the same? But maybe turning that back on to get some sort of revenue stream, because he must have, I want to say, like 60 videos up at least.
Yeah, he grew really fast as well. I think in the Australian like horology community. Yeah. And his Reddit page and stuff, he was very, very popular. So he had he sort of had an audience already when he set up the YouTube channel. It really grew.
Yeah, interesting development, but the drama continues. I have not heard anything else besides that. I kind of poked at the now closed Reddit thread and over on the Rolex forums as well. And other than several other people are now questioning purchases that they have made, which is sad.
Yeah, it is really sad. And from this Reddit thread, it looked like they were definitely copies, but they were pretty good copies at that.
Super fakes is kind of the term that they were using. So some other news, we just had President's Day passed, and Hodinkee updated their complete guide to watches of U.S. president.
Right.
And one thing that I noticed, I've clicked through this article before. I've seen this article before. We'll link it in the notes as well. But the Vulcan Cricket of all watches keeps coming up. I have a friend who has one and heard the Cricket in person, and it's mighty loud. And so very super favorite presidential watch from Truman on. And then it's interesting, the article kept mentioning the same guy who was gifting the president a Vulcan Cricket. It was the same, and I became more fascinated in this guy. I'm gonna mess it up. It's like Kijo Paginen. I think it's, yeah. We'll link it in the show notes. But he apparently and his family would get the Vulcan Cricket, and it became a sort of a tradition that the family would gift the U.S. president this watch. So, I mean, just about everybody's got one. It's fascinating.
Oh, wow. I'd not heard that at all. I knew that definitely the Vulcan Cricket was used, or Vulcane, however you say.
Oh, sorry. Am I saying that wrong?
No, I might be saying it wrong. I thought it was Vulcane.
Watch pronunciation with Chris and Sam.
Yeah, it is a nice watch. It's always one of those that's just in that expensive price bracket where there's other watches that are kind of around about there. But
yeah, they have so they have a modern edition of it. But I mean, if you are interested in wearing a watch that most of the presidents have worn at some point, that's the Vulcane or Vulcan. Yeah, I keep saying Vulcan, Vulcan, Star Trek.
Okay.
Oh, please roast me for that. But yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. So we'll leave a link to that in the comments down below. So the next story, not really news, but we were having a brief conversation about this before. Hodinkee did a story that looked like it was about birth watches. It wasn't really, but it did present a very interesting question that I don't think I've ever asked you, Chris, is your birth year watch, are you bothered about them at all? Is this something, I know for some watch collectors it really factors for them?
Yeah, I had looked, but I didn't, besides maybe like a Rolex from that era, but I couldn't really come up with anything. How about you?
I don't know. I think maybe I've occasionally looked for it. I mean, the 90s weren't great for watchmaking. I'm just kidding. It was definitely the 80s. And it might have been closer to the latter part of the 70s.
It was the 1940s for Chris.
Yes.
No, just kidding. It was good. It was the late 70s for me. So late 70s. So you 79 or 80?
80. Yeah, 1980.
80. Oh, 80. Oh, geez. I just...
Yeah, the latter
You're
part.
right on the cusp. You can join either club, though, if you want to join Gen X or Gen Y.
And I've never been bothered by a birth year watch, but I'd be interesting to know if any of the listeners are bothered about birth year watches. We will be adding, nobody took us up on our generous offer last week of leaving us a voicemail message, but I did include the link in the show notes. So if you want to ask us a question or leave a message for us that we can either play on the air or a question that we can answer, if you just click the link in the show notes page, it will take you to the Anchor website. You can record off your phone or you can record directly into your computer a little message, and then Chris and I will see it, so you can take us up on that one. Pretty light week for news. Now, before we dive into it, we'll do the ad break earlier than we normally do. So let's just quickly pause for an ad break. Okay, welcome back, everyone. With our main topic, we're going to talk about limited edition and also watch flippers. But before that, in a new section that we're calling "We're Definitely Not Hypocrites," I thought Chris you've been selling off quite a lot of your collection this week. I'm still selling my Omega Speedmaster.
Any bites on the Speedmaster?
Funnily enough, a young gentleman from, I don't know if he's young, but a gentleman from Australia has been chatting to me. And whether he buys it or not, we've just been kind of sorting out postage and stuff. So it's the ball's in his court with it. But he specifically referenced Horology House in there, saying that he's very nervous now about buying watches online. Now, mine's a Speedmaster. It's all over the...
Federico mentioned that in his latest video as well. Federico Talks Watches. He took that question. He hasn't seen anything directly, but I mean, certainly he sort of addressed that, when you have this controversy come up where, people are getting something that's not real and they're purchasing it online, and we're dealing with thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That it's possible it's sort of shaken the industry here, or at least shaken the confidence of anybody buying anything on eBay or any secondhand, dealer.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Federico's one of his main sources of income, isn't it? Is it the Del Rey watch supply that he does?
So he runs a shop and has to authenticate stuff and has to back it for his customers. So I mean, certainly a good question, but it's interesting that this person brought that up for. You're like you said, you're sort of ubiquitous Speedmaster.
It was it was a bit weird. It kind of took me by surprise. And then another guy from Taiwan who wanted to fly to Orange County to meet me up, and I was like, no, we're not. That's not happening. Yeah, we're not doing that. I'd rather keep the watch than do something. Because I said to him, I want to do it through Chrono 24.
I have a suitcase full of cash, and I will meet you in the parking lot.
It was a ridiculous thing, but.
I had, we didn't talk about this, but I had something very similar happen. So I've been working on the great consolidation. So I sold the watch that shall not be named.
Before I got a chance to review it.
Yeah. Yes. Whoop, in and out. The Voldemort Steinhardt, titanium GMT. I wanted to try it out. And I had an interesting experience with it because it's a watch that checks a bunch of boxes, but it just makes watch people, or it just makes hardcore Rolex people upset. And I mean, I had a couple people like private message me and be like, "That's a Batman. That's just a knockoff copy of the Rolex." And I was like, "Well, no, I mean, it doesn't have applied markers, and it's black and blue, but it's not like, all right. I guess." And it's very polarizing. There's your episode right there. Polarizing.
What? Yeah. Is this a theme? Polarization of some
polarization in watches. Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by the polarization and the numbers 2 and 12. Right. So this is they private message you through your Everyday Mastery Instagram, just like random people or people that you order.
People that I think I've spoken to in the past, but no, not shy about it. Nonetheless, I had the experience with it, so I bought it used because I wasn't going to buy a new one, and I got it for a great price used. And because, you know, if you want to try something out and you can get it for 30% off and it, you know, looks pretty good, and we're in the range of $500 and something here. Got it, wore it. The movement in it is Swiss amazing. So it was running costs like it was no more than 2 seconds a day, all the time. The finishing on it, it's a titanium watch, so I think we talked about this a couple times the last couple episodes. You know, it can pick up scratches, but a super light brushing with a fine sandpaper would just take out any light hairline scratches. That's not a big deal. And it was a fun. I nicknamed it the Lego Batman because it's not really the Batman.
I suppose there's a certain irony to the fact that you can make your money back on a Rolex, and you can also make your money back on a Rolex copy. Although I did see this watch in person, and it wasn't. It certainly has elements of the GMT, but the hands weren't the Mercedes hands.
Right.
I think just the fact that probably it's a Steinhardt, it gets my back up for sure. But
I have made decisions for the great consolidation. That's what I'm calling it now. And I'm laser focused on one watch that I'm going to pick up. And I was like, I'm done with this Steinhardt. We're going to pop this back on eBay. And so put it back on eBay and had someone private message me. This is probably only the second time this happened. They literally private messaged me and was like, hey, I'm in California. We can, I'm in Southern California. Can we just meet up? And then I don't have to pay tax and you don't have to pay fees, but like right in the eBay Messenger. And so I was kind of like, yeah, that's kind of not how eBay is supposed to work. And so in order to maintain my seller status, I just was like, my Instagram is this, is all I responded with.
That's funny.
And then he immediately chatted me on Instagram. He has an Instagram handle. Okay, great. And so I went through and I was like, okay, and then he tried to talk the price down, or he tried to get the price lower. And I was like, and he's like, well, I'm saving you money because you don't have to pay fees, but I want, but like basically I want some of that money.
Well, he has to pay tax. It was actually saving him the tax because
he was saving him the tax and it was saving me the fees. But so what he did was he just said like, because you're going to save, let's say, I think it was like $40 worth of fees, then why don't you give it to me for $30 off?
Ridiculous.
And you'll be ahead $10 or whatever it was, and then that made me sort of kind of step back and go, how much am I paying for fees? And this is something that I realized I remembered, but something certainly that for all of our listeners to remember. PayPal is taking 3%, but eBay is taking 9%. So, price your watches accordingly.
Yeah, I've sold a lot of watches. I've sold a lot of stuff on eBay, and the thing is, it is an absolute gouge, but there is that kind of protection there, I guess. I mean, that if I sell my Speedmaster on Chrono 24, they're going to take 6% plus. Plus for their escrow service and stuff.
Yeah, and you mentioned the protection. So that was the thing. I was like, yes, I'm saving money by meeting up with you in person, but you're not getting seller protection. You're not getting PayPal protection. You're not getting eBay protection. And I realize this is not this isn't like the Speedmaster, but it's still a decent amount. It's a decent amount of money for a watch. And I was like, okay, we'll meet in a public place. Okay. All right. Next Tuesday works. This is good. Okay. Then he flaked on me. He was going to sell something else and he couldn't get the money. And I was like, yeah. So then I was like, this was stupid. I don't know why I did that. I should have been like you and been like, sorry, I'm not taking money from a guy that just, got off a plane. And, I relisted it on eBay after looking at what I would actually pay for fees, and I added like $80 to it.
Oh, wow.
And I kept getting lowball offers that were like $20 less than the asking price. And I was like, just buy it. Like $20, just buy it. Just
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
it. And then a week went by. I was super patient, and someone just bought it. And I was like, perfect.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, you're calling it the consolidation. I did one earlier, partway through last year that I called Watch Apocalypse. But it's amazing how the watches kind of creep back up on you. Although I have got a kind of a streamlined collection at the moment, I would say. If I get rid of the Speedmaster, then my only luxury watch will be the Tudor Black Bay 58. Then I've got the Turtle, got my G-Shock. I've got that Citizen ProMaster Diver, and then some of the watches that I've had in for review, which get subscribed to the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed, because when I hit that 10,000 and I'm like...
Yeah, you're close.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing... I've got a box full of stuff that will be going to one lucky winner that has watches, etc. in there, and I'll do a video on that. So
Nice.
you sold the Steinhardt, but what other ones are you...
Well, sometime last year, for folks on my Instagram, I built a space turtle, is what I called it. Fun, like total. I had total fun with it. It's what if Seiko made a watch for the shuttle astronaut, like in the like, let's say early 2000s, back when the shuttle was still flying. I saw an iridium blue case from Crystal Times, and just this idea popped in my head, and I was like, I have to build this. And it was really just for the experience of it, for the fun of it. I had a great time doing it. I took some super cool, fun pictures of me hanging out on the International Space Station, and so I've got the Space Turtle for sale. It's a one of a kind. So if you're into space watches, if you're into space, and you want a sort of a fun art piece, I'll even admit it's an art piece. I've got that on Watch Recon, and then I've got my that Omega 300, which was my watch obsession 3 weeks ago now. That Omega 300 homage is on sale on eBay right now.
Oh, cool.
So,
and that's an SKX based watch.
Yeah, SKX based. I just did it the way I think it should be done. So it doesn't have the date. It's just the time only. And so the movement doesn't have the ghost date where someone, just where the date wheel's there, but it doesn't do anything. So I picked up the right movement for it. It's the NH38. And it's all, clean and ready to go. So I just want to, I just sort of want to move past a couple of these, get some of these projects out. I thought that maybe I would fall in love with the 300 and wear it, but I don't know, on to other things.
This brings us, I guess, to our main topic, which we briefly alluded to last time, and it feeds into a couple of stories, especially this Kith G-Shock that I've been looking at, that this was a limited edition G-Shock watch that I think they sold for around about the $400 mark, and I think everybody that bought one then put it on eBay, so they're ranging from about $500 to $700. We also briefly talked last week about the Timex Q reissue, the blue one, and Adrian, again from Bark and Jack, did a great breakdown of the original Timex Q, and just said that it was just not really that good. It was just a bit meh. But they were selling those at one time for double the price.
Oh, easily, yeah.
Easily. And they and now people literally are practically giving them away. I mean, I think originally they were $179. And I mean, we've both seen some on eBay, haven't we, for, what would you say, like around $100 mark? So whoever flipped them and paid $400 for one of these it's a joke. But I guess the subject in general it's in two parts. It's limited edition watches. So, and I'm not talking about, I'll ask your opinion on this, Chris. My objection with limited edition watches is twofold. Now, I think if you're making a special watch, if you're a luxury watch manufacturer, maybe you're making the watch with moon dust like Omega might do, or, these Patek, like one-of-a-kind watches where they can't produce them en masse. And then on the flip side of the market, and I think Hodinkey's really bad at this, they take a normal everyday watch that any watch collector should be able to buy. I'm talking about the Seiko Alpinist as an example, the Swatch System 51 that they had, the Oris, and they make those limited edition when there's zero reason to do it other than a complete cash grab. And it's ridiculous. I mean, what do you think on that?
It's crap. It's just crap. It feels just like a cash grab. It's just a cash grab, and it's sad. It's sad. I'm mad. I'm mad about it. I'm sad about it.
I'll give you a couple of examples. So we talked about the Timex Q, which everybody seemed to lose their shirt on. But the new Batman, it's not even been properly released yet, and they're going...
How dare you call it the Batman?
Sorry. The new Timex Q Mechanical, which is going for $365, which, again, isn't going to be limited. The one, I'll give you a couple examples, and then I'll tell you the one that annoyed me the most. It annoyed me that much that I emailed the watch company.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I'll give you a couple of examples of Hodinkey's, I'm going to call it the Hall of Shame, because I don't think they should have done this. So first of all, they had that Omega, that limited edition one that just, I did a video on this. It just looked ridiculous. My main argument was that it had a additional dial with kind of the hand was like double-ended to basically do like a split minute. And the watch looked as if, by the dial layout, that it was kind of an instrument for measurement. It looked like it would have been built for a purpose, whether it be like aviation or something. Omega make these watches specific to an industry like the pulsometer. And you've talked about Zinn as well, haven't you? They do like a medical one. So this one looked like that, but essentially Hodinkey had just gone crazy with the dial, and none of the dials meant anything. They didn't have a purpose. It wasn't like an aviation watch that they then.
It was they just put a scale on it that didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it was just bizarre. Obviously, this is all my opinion, and if anyone from Hodinkey is listening, this is purely my opinion. Anyway, there's
was this the Mark 40 one they did?
Yes.
Or no?
It was something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So that has just stuff on it that doesn't mean anything?
Yeah, it doesn't. It was a homage to an earlier one, but it didn't really. To me, it doesn't really have a purpose. I'm sure somebody will correct me. But again, there's still. This was, I guess, a year, 18 months ago that they did this. They were selling them for $6,500, sold out. They're on eBay now for like $8,000. They also had a Swatch System 51, which you can regularly pick those up for $100, even less on the secondhand market.
Yep.
They're on eBay for $274, because they're a limited edition. Exactly the same. You actually have a System 51.
I do. Yeah, I have one of the original ones that I bought from Swatch for $150.
Yeah, $274 seems to be the average price on eBay for the Hodinkey one. Who's paying that? It's ridiculous. And then they made that gorgeous Oris 65 that had the kind of faded out bezel. They did a great job of it, but again, they were knocking them out for $2,300, which is more than a standard 65. But again, eBay, their average price isn't as extreme as some of the others, but there's many on there that are between $2,800 and $3,000. So you've got to kind of overpay for these watches. The Seiko Alpinist, this is the worst offender.
I think so.
They were selling them for, was it $450, sort of $450, $500, I think, from memory.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah, and they're like
$450. I think you're right.
Yeah, and then there's loads of them on eBay.
And you had two frames of mind there for $450. And again, this is our opinion. This is why we do a podcast. You had a bunch of Seiko people, guys, fanboys, whatever you want to call them. I love Seiko. I mod Seiko, so I'll just say that. Let me preface. You had a bunch of Seiko people saying like, oh, but that movement, for the Alpinist, they're like, oh, but it has the 4R 30 whatever, and I was like, it's not a Swiss movement. It's not anywhere close to like a 2-second a day certified. Like for $450, you can get a Hamilton that'll do 2 seconds a day for $450. I'm sure in a bin of Seiko movements, I'm sure one of them will do 2 seconds a day until you turn it sideways, and then it just. So okay, I'm an accuracy snob, and I had the movements apart. I've had them on my workbench. I get that, so I'll stop there. But also so I'm curious, Sam, what's sort of worse here for you? While I see it as smart marketing from Hodinkee, that does gripe, you definitely want to gripe it, because you're just doing a re-edition and you're marking it up a lot in order to cash in on it. But then you get these people that just sit there first in line at the Apple store to buy 15 of them and go on eBay and flip them and so it's like, which I feel like that's worse, but at the same time, both those situations, how do you feel about?
Well, yeah, I mean, this Kith watch, this G-Shock that I've watched, there's so many on eBay now. People just bought them with it's not you bought it, you didn't like it, and then you're selling it off afterwards. I mean, literally, people are posting the stock images and then a picture of their order confirmation.
Right. They're like cashing in on that.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And I don't know how you would possibly do the math on this, but, that Seiko Alpinist, that could have been a watch that they just kept making. I mean, it's this kind of must have, like, that, Hodinkee want to get that cash up front. They want to sell them out so they've got that cash. But logistically, you wonder whether they would just make a similar amount of money just having it non-limited and just having people say, hey, this is the Hodinkee Alpinist. You can only buy it through our site. It's not limited, but you've got to come here.
Right. But you can put one in your cart right now. It's $300.
I'm sure it's a negotiation tactic with Seiko. I'm sure they went to Seiko and said, look, we can sell, 100,000 of these in.
Oh, easy.
So give us this price tag. It's really awful making it on a watch that watch collectors do respect. I mean, those Alpinists are still on eBay for between $960 up to $1,400. I saw one, and maybe it's because they're not selling. But
to tease it, where it's like, oh, we've got this special dial, this blue dial, and you want it, but you can't get it. I want to interject and point out, it's the same sort of thinking with, and I mentioned Apple before. Don't think for a second that Apple marketing doesn't realize and love that there is a line around the block.
Yeah.
They do that. They could have a store have all of them. They could have a pallet of them, but they don't, because they want the line out the block. They want the news taking pictures of the line out the block. And I kind of feel that's the same marketing strategy at play here, where they're like, we're going to make this edition where we're going to be the only ones, and the only people that are going to buy it are the 50 flippers who are going to immediately go on eBay, but it's going to be hard to get, and everybody's going to be talking about it, and that's what we want.
I know that there's this argument that you hear usually from people that buy these watches and flip them, just being like, oh, I'm a legit, if people will pay it, then I'll do it, as if that's some kind of justification. But there's a lot of awful con artists and criminals use that exact same excuse, that they're, oh, well, if I wasn't going to do it, somebody else was going to do it. Or the favorite one is, oh, well, we live in a capitalist society. Well, we don't really, because a capitalist society means that everything is for sale. Like, you could buy yourself out of prison. I mean, and some would argue that the rich do, but the justification for just blatantly gouging people, and it happens across. I mean, Supreme, we talked about last week. There's a whole cottage industry, that the hype beasts or whatever, that just buy and resell Supreme stuff. And it's like, what you feel like this is a ginormous karma thing that's going to come back and bite people on the ass. So I did promise that, before I say which is the one where I actually emailed the watch company, I sent you one before of somebody who's trying to do some like ridiculous limited edition Kickstarter watch that it has to be a joke. It has to be the worst troll that anyone has ever done on Kickstarter.
It's, you know what? I watched the video. You should, you'll obviously post the link. My exact response was, good God.
It's unbelievable. So this is, we'll link, I don't even know if we should link to this in the show notes, Maybe
we'll just take a screenshot. We'll just link to a picture.
So these two clowns, they can be best described at, they've developed this watch called the Solid State Watch. Now, it's got an interesting name, but did you have a little look into actually what it was?
I watched the whole video, and I'll summarize. So they took the cheapest Casio.
Yeah, the F91W.
So they take it out of the housing, the case,
the module, yeah,
and then they proceed to drop it into a 3D printed SLA 3D printed case, clear, and then cover the date up or the year up. I'm not sure why they covered the year up,
because it's for a leap year.
Because you'll never be able to set it again, nor change the battery again, because then they poured resin over it. Yeah,
so it's encapsulated in, it's like they drop it into the watch, and then they fill it with a syringe with resin, so the whole thing it's encased.
That's it. That's your 10-year. That's your sorry, Earth. That's your 10-year, and then throw it away.
Well, what's ridiculous is, for a start, they cover the date over with basically an orange sticker. You can't replace the battery, as you said. You can't change it for daylight savings time. So I presume you've got to have two of these watches.
They specify your time zone. They're like, specify your time zone when you order.
As if that's a feature. They make that sound as if it's a feature, and we'll customize the time zone. It's ridiculous. And they are holding a mirror up to consumerism. They're holding a mirror up to these ridiculous limited edition watches. They're holding a mirror up to all these other watch companies that say they're disrupting the Swiss watch industry. And what is the biggest troll of this whole thing is you can pick those Casio watches up for, what would you say, $15?
If that, $12.
They put a fabric strap on it, and then the case. I mean, they've had to buy the 3D printer, but the 3D printed case is, I'm imagining, is a couple of dollars of actual resin. And these things, they are knocking out for, and they're at, bearing in mind, they had a target of $8,000, and they've nearly at $10,000 over that. They're at $17,855.
What do they want for it? And what was the price? I didn't even see the going price.
$160. The early bird price is $160.
Oh, the early bird. Buy two for $300. Woo.
It's absolutely, it's insane. It's the most insane thing I think I've seen. Guys, you should check that out. And this is a kind of a little tangent, but
yeah, no, it's good. It was like, it's everything, just like capitalism and taking advantage of watch people. It just goes, it cuts right to it. Ridiculous.
So I did promise that I would talk about the limited edition watch that annoyed me the most out of any. Now, if you've seen my Instagram, I'm a big fan of kind of like modern art. I love like Roy Lichtenstein. I'm a big fan of modern art. And Swatch, so this is the actual plastic Swatch watches, not a mega Swatch. So Swatch released two watches for the Mickey Mouse's 90th birthday. One was, and they're both designed by Damien Hirst. Now, Damien Hirst is a very famous British artist. He was extremely famous for basically taking a dead cow, cutting it in half and put it in like a formaldehyde, in like a resin. He'd also did a shark, and that shark is, I've got a picture on my Instagram, is in the Palms in Las Vegas.
Oh, I think I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, he does incredible stuff like that. He also has his theme is dots, so he has like a one painting that's all just different dots of different shade colors. Anyway, he did this famous Mickey Mouse painting, which essentially was just different dots, different circles over the top of each other, and it just looking at it from afar, you can see it's Mickey Mouse's kind of familiar shape. So Swatch made two watches Now, the first one I managed to buy for, I think it was $160. It was limited edition, but it was like there was like 4,000 of them, so there was no problem getting it. The second one they released, it was a similar version, but it was a lot nicer. So the watch itself was yellow. It had the design in black on the dial, and then the strap was red and yellow, I think, from memory, or maybe the watch case was black.
No, yeah, watch case was black. I'm looking at it now, yeah.
Swatch did this absolutely criminal thing that I liken only to what teenage girls must have to go through when they're trying to get tickets for like a One Direction concert, or they're trying to get tickets for, look at my knowledge of like current pop artists, like Billie Eilish or something. You had to basically log into their website, register, and then wait till midnight for the thing to refresh, and then you could buy one of these watches. So I'm sat up, it was midnight Pacific time, so it was like...
So you're like, I'm in.
So I was there refreshing it. Another good friend to the show, Sean, he was there refreshing it. The site was crashing and everything. And then suddenly, like, I'm refreshing it, and then suddenly, like, people are like, oh, they're all gone.
Right, 12 seconds. 12 seconds have been long.
Then we went to bed because it was like midnight. And then next morning we wake up, and they didn't say this, but they'd released them in batches. So they'd done like a couple 1 hour.
Oh.
And I was absolutely... I was livid. I was absolutely livid because I was like, because it would have been cool to have these two kind of art watches. I was thinking about putting them in a frame. It would have looked cool. And so then Swatch emailed me to say how was my buying experience for the first watch, and I just emailed them back.
I'll tell you.
I was absolutely disgusted with them. There was zero need to make it limited edition. I can't remember another watch. They probably have, but I can't remember another watch. It was the grossest thing ever. I mean, they can pump those watches out. Probably I think it was limited edition to I can't know, 2,000 or something, whatever the limited edition was. They could have pumped 2,000 of them out every 5 minutes, probably, in their factory. And the thing is, still on eBay today, those watches which retail for $200, the average on eBay, you're looking at like $1,000. It's disgusting. And they also made, and a viewer very kindly sent me in a picture of this because he was a big Swatch collector, and he got in with one of his local Swatch shops. So he got one, and so he should do. He's bought thousands of, he's bought many Swatches from them. He got have you ever seen those ginormous wall clock swatches? He got one of those in that limited edition version as well. So, I mean, good luck to him. But I couldn't have been more annoyed about a blatant limited edition, a blatant cash grab.
And Swatch and Omega, I heard a bunch of stories. So did you hear about the Ultraman? When Omega did I
reviewed it. I've reviewed an Ultraman. Bob's Watches had one.
Yeah, so everyone went away with that same feeling. So in the Swiss watch sort of genre, it's funny because half the industry feels like they want to continue operating like it's 1890. And they're like, well, I'm sorry, sir, you can't just buy this. You have to go to an authorized dealer. And then you go to the authorized dealer and you're like, well, we don't have them today, but we might get more in stock. And like, it's a very posh, we're going to pour champagne when we finally get one. And, this sort of experience. Right. And then the other half of the industry is like, oh, what we'll do, we'll just, we'll throw it up on the web like Ticketmaster. And that I heard some stories of the Ultraman. I mean, that angered some very some longtime Omega folks.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you are setting up a customer base where you are a fan, you are a collector, you come into our boutique, you spend time here, you tell your friends about us, you come in, you look at the watches, you buy the watches. You buy them for your friends. You've got this special edition. When we released this one, you wanted it. You wanted this one in platinum. So you take those folks that have sort of built up this relationship, and then you say, okay, like you did, Sam, like go ahead and log into your computer at midnight and start clicking on a button, and it just irradiates any of that sort of feeling that you had with the brand. I think I had a chance to look. So we told you guys about this last time. The Timex M79 is not limited. They are going to sell 1 billion of them.
Yep.
They are already sold out. I don't know about you, Sam, but my Instagram was lousy with them.
Yeah.
But right now, with 11 minutes to go, I think I'm going to bid on it. $405. 11 minutes to go on eBay right now.
It's just ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous state of affairs. Maybe we should, it's saved me getting more enraged. Maybe we should kind of wrap it up there. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Casual Watch Talk. We're having a lot of fun making these, so let us know if you're enjoying them. Chris, we've got the Facebook group now. Yeah, yep. Guys, so we're really interested in hearing from you. Please join the Facebook group. Leave us a message. We'll post. We've been posting the podcast on there. We'll leave some polls and things like that. You can ask us questions on there, or just leave us comments. And thank you to the people that are emailing me as well. Big thanks to Jeffrey, who's been listening to these shows. Much appreciated. I think in the first 10 subscribers I had on the channel, and he's been kindly giving us some tips to kind of improve these podcasts. So Chris, thanks for joining me on this week.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, guys, well, appreciate listening, and we'll see you next week on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.